in our personal human experience. When we tune into that voice deep in our soul, but I really feel like it's both. It's like deep in our soul, but it's also the universe, or however you say it, whether it's God or source, the universe, all of it together it's telling you that this is the path. This is the way to get to your truest truth.
In today's episode, I speak with abstract expressionist Pamela Bates. After 23 years in PR, doing graphic design, branding, and marketing, and a lifetime of being the go-to caregiver of loved ones, Pamela found herself completely and utterly burnt out. She shares with us how doing too much to take care of others meant she forgot herself and ultimately became unwell, until her sister set in motion a series of events that would lead to an aha moment that gave me the shivers to hear. She has some fairly bold suggestions for how we can get out of our own way to find our creative voice. It definitely got my attention. And she offers us some beautiful, practical, and gentle instructions on how to begin accessing and creating from that deep well inside each one of us. There are so many nuggets of wisdom in this episode. I encourage you to listen to it a few times, and maybe have a notebook nearby. This woman is gregarious, irreverent, gentle, kind, radiantly insightful, and very generous. I hope you get as much out of our chat as I did. Here's my conversation with Pamela Bates.
Welcome, Pamela Bates.
Hello, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for making the time for the Creative Genius podcast.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm always excited when we're talking art and creativity.
Me too.
Yeah.
And actually that leads me into, before we get actually started into our conversation, I wanted to share with you and our listeners some of the intent of the Creative Genius podcast and why I created it. Essentially, for me, it comes out of this, it's an answer to this belief that I think we hold collectively that only certain people have access to creativity. And it's widespread. I see it everywhere, and I see it causing so much suffering. And I really sort of started to think of it as sort of like this self-inflicted wound that we are perpetuating unconsciously, and that we need to reteach ourselves, how to connect with this energy of creativity. So that's kind of my mission. I want to help people get that. Not only does every single one of us have access to creativity and
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I have to jump in because
you have to.
It makes me sad really to think that people, and I get it all the time. I had somebody say the other day, an incredible designer. Oh, I wish I could paint like you.
Oh, yeah.
But well, you're creating in a different way, number one. Number two, when's the last time you tried?
Right.
I honestly think that creativity is what makes us innately human. I think it's inside every single one of us, and we can call it to us when we acknowledge that and recognize that. But I think that that's what makes us innately human, is the ability to be creative.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's actually, you talk about that sort of that little quiet wish. And I know that wish. People have said that to me my whole entire career as an artist. Yeah. There's that quiet wish. And I used to get really upset and sad when I heard people say that. And now I get a little bit excited because I realize that wish is actually creativity talking, saying,
hey, hello. I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm here.
Let me out. You are a really incredibly creative person, and your paintings are
a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about all the ways. I mean, I know you from your paintings, which are so beautiful and so happy and joyful.
Definitely joyful.
Yeah, I can see that. I love the one behind you.
Thank you.
Which we'll put in the show notes.
In progress.
Is it? I love it. We'll put a little screenshot of that for the listeners so they can go to the show notes and peek at it.
A little work in progress.
I love it. I'm wondering if you'll tell us how you came to have such a rich and healthy relationship with creativity.
I've been creating as long as I can remember, really. I can remember this book my mom had on the bookshelf, and it was just this arts and crafts book. And when we pulled that out, uh, it just made my day. A rainy day was not a problem because we would always pull that out and do some kind of arts and crafts. And I also remember in kindergarten doing this project. My teacher had, I don't know how she came upon it, but she had this stock of wallpaper books and she brought them into class so we could create with them. And I created like an entire paper doll with complete, tapestry clothing or.
That's so cool. So it's
So
been,
I have been
yeah.
creating, and is in so many ways my entire life. And before this, I had my own creative agency for 23 years, and I was working with small business people with PR, graphic design, a lot of graphic design, branding, ad design, ad planning, marketing, all of it.
So it's
And I
always
was a little
been,
burnt out.
it's,
Always in some way, but I'd never painted like this. A lot of country stenciling painting on furniture, and I even sold that for a while, probably like 30 years ago. And have always enjoyed creating in different ways, but I never had picked up a paintbrush with the intention of painting like that.
so what happened there? How did that start?
I was really burnt out, and I think a lot of us get there. We're just on the hamster wheel and we're doing what we do. And while I loved my business and I loved most of my clients, I was selling graphic design services at this point on Etsy because I had an Etsy shop where I had started so that I could do illustrations beyond my day job, to be creating something that was just for me. Mm-hmm. Because design work is tough, because by the time you get to the end, sometimes you don't even want to put your name on it because the customer or the client has made so many changes. It doesn't reflect anything that you would suggest to them, and it doesn't reflect what you would put out. So I was really burnt out, and I had a lot of extraneous family challenges, like my dad aging and his health declining, and I was his medical liaison girl, took him to the doctor every month and all of that, and some other loved ones facing really big life challenges that I'm a helper girl, so jumping in to help people, but I was really forgetting about myself, and I'd really lost the spark of creating in the way that I was creating. I was feeling very burnt out from working attached to technology every single day. I was creating, but I was creating with a mouse and a keyboard and a computer screen. And
it sounds like from a different place. Like I'm hearing as you're saying this, it's like there's a difference between creating from a place of that spark in your heart and doing it for yourself, as opposed to creating from maybe more the rational mind, which feels a little bit less alive and abundant.
Now I'm creating heart overhead. And that's the key for me, and I think for most creatives. So my sister had suggested we go to the Gardiner Museum in Boston, which is amazing. I had never been, always wanted to have gone. My parents had been and talked about it. And my sister said, I just know that it will be a really nice place to visit, because when you walk in, there's this I needed some peace. I needed to reclaim a little bit of peace. And you walk in and there's an amazing courtyard that is in the center of this, I guess I would call it a take on a Venice palace, but in the middle of the Fenway of Boston. Isabella Stewart Gardner created this museum. It was her vision. And I stepped away from the courtyard and into the first room, which is the, it's not the Spanish grotto. I'm losing, I'll come back to it. Into the room, aligning the courtyard. And I came, the Spanish cloister, I came face to face. We were one of the first people, we were two of the first people in that morning. And I stepped in and I was very close to El Jaleo by John Singer Sargent. And I was absolutely awestruck. Like I was just, my chin dropped to my chest. I was, oh my God. And then the guard came in and said, ladies, I haven't even turned the light on. And when the guard flicked that switch, it lit me up inside like a lightning bolt, and it knocked me back. That painting knocked me back across the room several steps, took my breath away. And that was just my moment. It was that kind of moment for me. And I just was, my breath was literally taken away. I was just like, this is amazing. And I knew when I got home that I needed to paint, that I needed to actually pick up a paintbrush instead of a mouse and lay it on. And I had nothing. I had no supplies. I think I had like a kid's watercolor set.
Wow.
So I just picked that up, and I had copy paper, which is not really ideal for watercolor, but I just, I just picked it up and I just started.
That day.
That's all I did. When I got home, we were there for the weekend. So yeah, as soon as I got home, picked up a paintbrush and started doodling and just exploring. And it was within a very short amount of time that I knew, I really knew right away.
Yeah.
I knew when I was standing in front of the painting, even before I had painted, I think, that this would be a calling, that this, that my soul was telling me that this was, the soul and the universe were telling me that this was the direction I needed to go in. And so I did, and I didn't stop painting. And I quickly realized that it was what I wanted to do with my life, and transitioned very quickly out of my old business and created a new one based on painting and fine art.
Amazing.
It really,
I
tell that story often because it can be a moment like that, or it can be a series of moments, or, you just have to tune in to yourself and the universe to hear that voice. That you need to.
I think so much of it, and I just hear this from artist after artist after artist, that it is so much about just staying open to that intelligence. Because that moment when you were standing there, there was something else came into the room in that moment that maybe isn't. And it wasn't the guard. And the guard was the impetus. Clicking the switch was the impetus. Yeah,
but
he was part of it. Yeah, he was part of it. It's all, I feel like it's all connected. So glad
when he ever turned that light on, and then it was lit up. And this painting, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, it's an amazing John Singer Sargent painting, the size of a large wall, El Jaleo, and it's a beautiful flamenco dancer in action, and behind her are the players in the cantina, and then the other flamenco dancers watching her. And I don't know why it spoke to me. Well, I mean, so many people really fall in love with this painting at this museum. It's framed beautifully. Isabella had a vision. I mean, she really was. She's definitely a hero. But yeah, there was something else. There was something else in the room, Kate.
There was something else in the room, and I want to talk a little bit about what that is. Can you tell us what you think that was, and what specifically? I want to know what it's trying to do. What is its MO? Because it's.
I think it's absolutely trying to guide us where we need to go in our personal human experience. When we tune into that voice, deep in our soul, but I really feel like it's both. It's like deep in our soul, but it's also the universe, or however you say it, whether it's
Yeah.
God or source, the universe, all of it together, it's telling you that this is the path. This is the way to get to your truest true.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it a little bit more in a minute. You do some coaching work, and I guess, but just quickly right now, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the thing that we do the most, or that you see people do the most to block that connection to that intelligence? Put what obstacle do we put in front of ourselves to stop us from being open to that information? And
Perfectionism.
Perfectionism.
Yeah.
Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, perfectionism, which I think is a misnomer. I don't think there is such a thing, except maybe in nature. I think that as humans, we and our work are perfectly imperfect. So I think it's a silly waste of time trying to attain perfection. I think it's an absolute waste of time, and I think it's a brick wall. I think it can often be an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
I can't put that out there. It's not where I want it to be yet. And this may not necessarily be sometimes talking about painting, sometimes, because honestly, I really feel that the magic resides in letting go, whether it's letting go of a paint. Number one, like having this idea of how you want a painting. And this is me, everybody else has to find their true north, right? But for me, if I have this idea of a painting, I don't generally, I'm an intuitive. I might have some ideas of things that have stuck with me, whether it's a visit to the beach or branches crossing in the woods, making this pattern when I walk out there with my dog, or a moment, sometimes it's the emotion and the feeling of a moment that I'm painting. But if we hold on to things so tightly, it gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
If we make things so precious, like if there's a part of a painting that we love, if you hold that in this precious, it's likely going to get in the way of where you and the painting need to go.
That's really important. I feel like I want to just sort of underline that, because I heard that, I had a university teacher who was an English professor when I was in university, and I didn't even finish my degree because I'm not an academic person, but that was
a lot of people don't.
Well,
and especially if they're going for like an art degree, they get beat down so much.
But this one sentence was what I paid my entire university education for. And it's been with me all these years. And I remember him saying, don't ever fall in love with your own writing, because it stops everything. Just be ready to let your baby, kill your babies. We've heard all variations of that. And I think that efforting to try to create something, people get stuck there. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about alignment with our own inner voice, because I think it seems fairly common that artists from across all kinds of different disciplines struggle to find their own voice, right? Like, what is trying to come out of me? And like you said, letting go to let that out, that's tricky, because as soon as we get in front of our materials, often we want to create something good or pretty, or instead of and then we're creating again from that place of the rational mind, right? Where instead of the heart or the spark place. And so for the person who's listening to this right now going, okay, yes, me, I have this deep desire to become more creative. And I've even maybe taken some bold steps to allow myself to start to play and create, but I'm just finding it really difficult to find my voice. Every time I start making art, it's actually a frustrating experience, because I'm trying to find my way.
You're trying too hard. Stop trying so hard. Let it happen. Really?
Yeah.
It seems simple, but that's what's jamming people up, is they're trying too hard.
Mm-hmm. How to stop trying so hard?
I think this, I think, so many people are trying to find their style. Also, I do believe strongly that this day and age that we are in, that is filled with technology, which is a blessing in so many ways, has changed the way that we create. I want to create something that's Instagram worthy.
Right.
That makes me cringe a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I want people creating what they need to create. And I mean, from that deep well, like I said before, it will lead you to where you and the work needs to go. And then, you know, sure, there are ways to kind of get clues to your voice or find different ways you like to work. But I think that the painting will show you that the connection, that the style of your work, the connecting piece in your work is you.
Mm-hmm.
It's you, and nobody else has your experiences, your life challenges, your joys, your happiness, your woes, your sorrows, what you have lived. Nobody else on the planet has that. And that is what makes it uniquely you. And that you've already got that.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep searching.
Yeah.
You've already got it. You just have to allow it.
Yeah. So you talked a moment ago about there are ways to get some of those clues for finding your stuff. So for somebody who's there, who's kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. I have to let go. I'm going to do it. I'm going to let go. Maybe what are some of the ways that they can get some clues to what their voice is or what their style is?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of different techniques in some of the classes that I've taught online. I've done Zoom classes, I have recorded classes, and I use these techniques, probably a few of them in all of my classes. I would say, in order to kind of force yourself to let go, or to, you know what it is about? It's all trust. You're not trusting yourself. You're not trusting, and comparison. Stop comparing. I do exercises like holding the brush at the other end, because it loosens you up and you have less. It's also control freaks. We want to have control over everything, but control is an illusion.
That's the truth.
Control is an illusion. So holding the brush shaft at a different spot, like if you're holding it like this, right, you're going to get a completely different mark than if you are holding it here and it's loose, because you simply have less control. Have you ever seen any of the pictures of Matisse with the giant long brush that he's using, and he's painting the wall because he is ill at the time and in recovery, but he still needs to create? Focus on that need to create, and try things in a different way. Also, I would say, try with your non-dominant hand, because those are things that will help you free up and to let go control. And that, I think, is what leads you to your voice. Also, an exercise in mark making that I saw another artist do at the beginning of my journey. I'm forgetting her name.
If you remember it later, I'll put it. You can let me know, and I'll put it in the
I
show
know
notes.
I will remember it as soon as we stop talking. But she did an exercise that I found helpful at the beginning when I was just starting to explore abstracts, because I wasn't an abstract kind of, I loved the Impressionists my whole life. I never understood abstract art, but maybe I just wasn't at the place in my life where it could speak to me. She did like an exercise where you just took a piece of paper, broke it up into 6 squares, and quick fire, just make marks, the same mark, one mark in one square, another mark in the next square, another mark, 6 different marks, and quick fire, like just immediately, just do it. Don't think about it. Here you go. You've got 1 minute, do it. That was a great way for me to explore mark making, which I absolutely, boy, do I get jazzed about mark making.
Me too. I sure do love it. Yeah.
I love it. I have like these littles that are right in front of me. Just exploring
Oh yeah.
mark making in different ways. And I didn't know I was going to be a scribbler, but apparently that's what I've become.
Love it.
What I love, and you can see the one behind me has tons of marks too. And some of those may stay, some of those may not. Another thing I do to get free and to kind of find my way is when I'm feeling that preciousness, when I'm holding an area or a mark or a color too dear, because there's no going back from this. There's no going back. Take whatever color is like the opposite, like whether it's a big brush with that one's all wet, a big brush with black or a big brush with white, and I take like a big honking hardware brush and just make a big bold mark across the entire painting.
What? Tell me more about that. Why would you do that? If you
because it's kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid. It allows you, and you're ready to heal more, right? But you got to rip the Band-Aid off first. It just gets it out of the way, because then you can't keep it precious anymore. You can't hold it so incredibly dear anymore. It allows you to listen to the painting and the universe. It allows you to tune into the painting and the universe. Just if you're holding it too dear and you're making moves that are like an avoidance move, like I don't want to go over there because I like it too much. Just get out the paintbrush and make a big giant.
I can't.
Are you having sweats thinking about doing that?
Well, I can't get my head around.
What if you did?
I was
now.
worried.
What's going on with the piece behind you? What if you did that?
I just got. Like,
I mean, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying,
I know.
Like, no matter what piece it is.
I know.
But what's going to happen?
Yeah, and I have literally nobody has ever said that to me. I've never heard this, and I think a lot of people listening are going to be saying, what? It's like, you're speaking English, but I don't understand the words. Like, why would you do that? I can't understand. Isn't the whole point to create things that feel good in our? So I'm gonna.
Yeah, but you know what? More. It does feel good.
So what happens really, after when you've just done that? It
feels like you've like the world is off your shoulders. You have nothing to live up to. There are no expectations in your work anymore, because you've just erased them with one big bold mark, right? You're not attached to it.
Oh, so then what happens next in the painting for you typically when you've done that?
I just keep going. I just keep going.
And how do you know when it's done?
Sometimes I go in a completely different direction. Sometimes it takes layer. I think something's done. And I'm like, oh, and then weeks later, I'm like, that is not done. Mm-hmm. I'm really just always trying to tune in and allow that signal from the universe and the painting speak to me. I really think of myself, I don't necessarily, even though it's my work, it's always hard to explain this. Even though it's my work, I don't necessarily think of it as, I feel like I am a conduit for that creative energy of the universe. And my job is to tune in so that it can flow through me and come out on the canvas or the paper in the way that it's meant to, I guess. And I even, when you're working through a painting and you're like, oh, I didn't want it to. That's something to think about, right? Because then it's you. Yeah, exactly. Because then it's you controlling the painting. Now, I consider myself an abstract expressionist, and I work intuitively. This might be different for somebody who's working on representational work, where you do have to have perhaps more planning, but I would still say still do not let an area be too precious, or it's going to jam you up and it's not going to show you the path. So I think the bold mark thing, and even if you end up making a totally different painting, then that is the painting that was meant to be made.
I'm really nervous right now, but
Are you thinking like, what painting could I do that to?
Well, I'm making, cause it feels right. You know, when somebody says something to you where you don't, but I know this is an edge and I need to try it. So I am committing to doing that with something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as I say that to you, my whole stomach is kind of doing like these
That's so funny
somersaults. It doesn't want to do that.
You know, I've also run into a lot of people, some coaching, who were one gal I think of immediately, who was an artist, but she was working in calligraphy and doing like wedding design and watercolor floor, beautiful work, but she wanted to try acrylics and she wanted to try it on canvas and go big. And she was absolutely petrified. She couldn't make a mark on the canvas.
Mhm.
So it's kind of the same thing, what I mean about ripping the Band-Aid off, like just do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can paint over it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know why
You can
we're so
always paint
scared.
over it.
We are so scared of, well, we
Well,
do get,
because we
yeah.
put ourselves on the canvas, right?
Yeah.
We're expressing ourselves. It's
Yeah.
kind of like what your teacher said about
Mhm.
about the writing.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. It might be taking it to the extreme. We're taking it to live action.
Well, and I wonder, I feel like there may be some sort of balance to be had around sort of listening to what wants to happen. Like you're talking about, you
Right.
tap into this thing and it's created this thing. And then there's another part of you that comes along and says, like, if you're destroying it from your mind, it's just as bad as if you're creating it from your mind. Like, I think you have to, I had an experience. I never even thought of it in this way, but I was working on an abstract piece. It was about 20 by 20. And
Yeah.
I could feel that I was trying. I was really like trying and frustrated. But I kind of got it to a place where I was like, yeah, that's pretty. I like it. I'm going to stop there, walk away, because this isn't enjoyable anymore. And before I did, I grabbed my hand. It was like something grabbed my hand and reached out and grabbed, you know, those big oil stick. It's like
Yes.
the
R&F.
R&F
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
I grabbed the red one. I'm getting the chills telling you this.
See, you've done it already.
I didn't do it though. I was not allowing that. I felt invaded. I was very offended and upset right after it happened. But it grabbed and it did a huge red circle right over the whole painting. And I was so upset. And now I look at it.
Now you're recognizing that that was likely that creative energy.
It was.
I mean, I talk about it like that. Have you ever read Big Magic by Liz Gilbert?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she talks about the way do you remember that story she told about the book that she was writing and then she set it aside?
Yeah.
And she was like, I can't, this is just not going the way I want it to go. And then she did that speech with another author that she always looked up to. And afterwards they talked about what they were each working on. And this woman actually told her about this book she was writing. That was Liz Gilbert's book, which was an obscure, topic. It was really obscure. And then she realized, like, that's that creative energy, right? Like, I wasn't ready, so it moved on to somebody else.
Yeah,
I wasn't ready.
It just needs to come to life. It doesn't act, it feels very impersonal. It doesn't really care how. It's just like, if you're ready, fine, I'll come through you. I'm really curious about how to, I would love, and I feel like this is the holy grail of creativity, but I would love to get myself to a place where I'm open to my hand just grabbing things and doing stuff all the time as my creative. That felt like a one moment where like something came over and kidnapped me and did it. And I had this experience, but
I want you to feel that.
I do too. And I feel like everybody
should see my desk. I have, oh my gosh, I've got paintbrushes, I've got palette knives, I've got ink pens, I've got ink, flow acrylics, I've got heavy body acrylics, I've got oil pastels, markers, all of it. I need all of it because I do just grab what feels right. That's what I want people to do, is to tune into what they're feeling.
Yeah, you know, I think of that as sort of flow state creativity.
It is for me. Yeah, it is for me.
Do Do you have any hints of when that's coming, or can you conjure it, or what is your how does
I
it work?
don't feel like you can conjure it. I don't really feel, I mean, look, you kind of got to be working, you kind of got to be creating for it to happen.
Mhm.
So get busy making stuff. But then also you have to acknowledge that as a human and as a creative, you also need rest. You need that quiet to be able to tune in. We get very uncomfortable. I've been meditating for 3 years. I think 3 years. I started meditating as part of a healing journey for psoriatic arthritis. And I've continued because it's been life-changing, because it allows you to quiet your mind enough. And I know so many people with what they, call monkey mind. I just think we are so on everything from the minute we get up, where the TV is on, the radio's on, the phone is on and in your hand. We're going, that we are not comfortable with simply being still. And that's why our mind is going. We're training it to go. So we have to train it to be quiet. And that's when I think, when you can really tune in. So working, actually making things, I would suggest a sketchbook. I don't know what's in this one, just free form. Have a sketchbook, but have a sketchbook so that it's ready to go, so that there's no excuses to be made. Oh, I didn't have my supplies. We'll have some supplies out with your sketchbook. Leave your sketchbook out on your kitchen table if you need to. Leave your sketchbook out where you can find it. And I'm out of my daily practice, but I still do. The pandemic's thrown everything off.
Yeah.
It's thrown so much off. But there's really a lot of growth in a sketchbook, because you can make it an easy daily practice. Also, when I did my 100-day project, and this is probably 3 or 4 years ago now, there was a lot of growth in that.
So for the sketchbook practice, is that like
Because
some
it's
people,
the doing.
it's the doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people have to go to a different space or unpack stuff to their dining room table when they're and I know that can be sort of like maybe what you're saying, that it's an impediment to creating. So with the sketchbook, is it's like you leave it out, and the intention is to have like a 10-minute window every day where you let yourself play, or you just create some sort of structure, a routine around it?
I think it's more about habit. Yeah, I think it's more about creating a habit of making the time for yourself, of recognizing that you, number one, deserve the time. And that if you're feeling that pull to creativity, that you likely need the time to be as whole and as well as you possibly can be. Whether it's an outlet for stress, whether it's an outlet for creativity, an outlet to simply express yourself. I mean, it can be all those things and so much more.
This episode of Creative Genius is brought to you by Morning Moon Nature Jewelry. Instantly familiar, yet unlike anything you've ever owned, this extraordinary handcrafted heirloom jewelry is famous for its incredible detail of actual textures from nature. Get 15% off your first order and feel the wonder. Use coupon code CreativeGenius at lovemorningmoon.com.
You said something a minute ago that I think is so important. I want to go back to it for a minute, and it's about rest. It's about I have heard a couple of people lately sort of stressing out about, I've lost my creative mojo, and then other friends coming in and trying to fix it, and well, here's what you can do, and here's how you can try to get it back into and
rest.
And I think we forget about the importance of rest. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about, your own, how did you realize that was really important? Yeah. And can you say a little bit more about why it's important to just allow that?
Oh, well, again, I'll go back to the psoriatic arthritis diagnosis. It changed everything in the way, it changed so much about my life and how I managed stress. It was literally the first question that the doctor asked me was, have you been under a lot of stress lately? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, little stress. I mean, at this point, my dad had passed. And he was not the only thing, and I'm talking big life stress. And I didn't manage it well. I wasn't making any time to manage it well. And really, to start healing, you need radical rest. You don't just need rest, you actually need radical rest. That needs to be your goal daily, is to, and by rest, I don't mean like, while these things are all well and good, going to get a pedicure or a manicure, or sitting by the pool with a cocktail, which I'm all about. Don't get me wrong. If there's a margarita and a pool involved, I'm your girl.
All right.
But
Duly noted.
you have to balance that. It's really like a balancing act. And you have to, I think societally, we have not honored or, given rest the place of honor that it deserves, because it can be a huge part to healing your body and your emotions and your all of it.
I want
Can
to
be
talk
such a
more.
huge part of it.
I want to talk. I wrote it down because I loved it so much. Radical rest.
Radical rest.
I feel that a lot.
I'm all about the radical
well,
joy through soul fueled art and radical rest. But when I say rest, I really do mean it. Like getting more sleep than you've ever gotten, to allow your body to support your body, like in healing, and then also, again, like that really quiet time. And I am a loud, boisterous, gregarious, fun-loving party animal of a girl, but I had to change like the way I did things. I'm a night owl, so I tend to be the last one at the party, because I just have that in my blood. It's just who I am. But on the flip side, then I honor when I need to rest.
Yeah. I think a lot of creative type people who, and I want to say everybody is creative, I'm not excluding anybody, but a lot of the people who already are in a little bit of the current, at least, tend to be people who do more. They're doer. Like, I'm a real doer. People often say to me, like, I literally can't understand how you do all the things that you do. And to me, I'm like, well,
are you type A?
I don't know, but I really enjoy making. I really
Me too.
Yeah.
Totally jazzes me up.
Yeah. But I do have to, and homeschooling, I have to slow myself down. Homeschooling I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And last year,
that's a huge task.
We kept them home, and I was trying to do and be, and I was trying to do, and it really just it stopped me. I realized I needed to, when I'm with the kids, I just need to be with the kid. And I like it so much more when I'm doing that.
But it's a recipe for disaster.
It is. Yeah.
In so many ways, like it wears on your body and your mind physically, like more than you know, until all of a sudden you're confronted with somebody, and your years of not managing and stress or making room for rest and for being in the moment. And that's all about that tuning in too. We have really lifted up on a pedestal, doing more than one thing at once, multitasking. Well, I'm not down for that story at all. I think it's a bunch of baloney. I think we lose what you're talking about. We lose that presence in the moment. And I think that lesson can serve you so well in the studio. Yeah. And to tuning in to your creativity.
And that it has a rhythm. Yeah. It has its own rhythm, right? And that it's actually like, you wouldn't expect your body to stay up beyond 24 hours. Like you'd start to melt down and get sick. So creativity also has its own rhythm that needs to, I see that, but I know that a lot of us are sort of challenged with, we freak out when we start to
People get
notice.
uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I bet that this person that you were talking about really probably might just need some rest.
Yeah.
You have to fill the well, and also to find joy in other ways. Because if that's all we are doing is creating, and I love that creative train when you're in there and things are flowing and things are happening, but I don't think that it happens. You were asking me before, like, how can you set yourself up for that flow? I think that that's a huge part of it, is by also recognizing that it is a balance and you need to build that rest time and like disengage from Instagram and social media and everything that's coming at us, right, on a daily basis. It's a lot. And also, let's just can we just simply acknowledge like how incredibly challenging and difficult the pandemic has been, that it's completely altered. Some people it didn't alter. I mean, I've had a home office for really the majority of my adult life, now studio. So working alone at home, that part of it was not new to me, but not seeing my people has been horrifying. And still I haven't seen everybody, and still really seeing people, for the most part, other than like my mom and my some of my family members outside. But I just want us to acknowledge the weight. I think eventually as we move through it, like the art is going to just be better for what we've overcome as we continue to move through it. But I also think we need that rest time to truly acknowledge what the weight we've been carrying as an entire world.
Yeah. And I really want to sort of underscore that, because I do think at the same time as we are, the way I see it, I feel like we're sort of at the beginning of a renaissance. And that, and it's like anytime you go through a big life experience, you break up with your first boyfriend, you're not the same person that you after that experience than you were at the before. And every one of these experiences that, have big grief in them, all have gifts and they all help us grow. But you're right. We've got to acknowledge that doesn't mean that it should just be easier. We could just get through it, or like we have to acknowledge like
we're muddling through. Yeah, be gentle. Grace and space. Give ourselves some grace and some space, that because in the end, we're human. That's what I mean. We're perfectly imperfect, just the way we are. It's been a lot. And I think to give ourselves the grace and then the space to regenerate, to fill the well in whatever way it is, whether it's by making time to meditate, whether it's taking time to sit and read a book, play a game with our kids. I don't have kids. I'm outside with the dog, running him every day. My pool is still running, so I am eking out the last of summer for as long as I possibly can. You have to find those other moments of joy to fill your well creatively, and you have to allow that radical rest for that's part of filling the well. I think it's part of filling
very
the
well said. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
In life and in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, they're not disconnected. I think one is kind of the instruction manual for the other and vice versa,
I think you're right.
I was really excited to talk to you. I don't know why, it just came to me. I wanted to talk to you about manifestation.
Yeah.
For me, it's one of those
Bring it on.
I've always felt intuitively, I've been very drawn to the word, drawn to the idea of it. I feel intuitively that it's a true thing that's possible to master. But whenever I've gone to try to do it, I feel like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this thing works. I end up getting frustrated. And what is it? And how can art help me get better at it? What's the connection between art and manifestation, if there is one?
Oh, there's definitely one.
Okay.
I actually have a class that harnesses the power of the new moon specifically, but you could tweak it for any part of that moon cycle, because I really believe in the moon's powerful energy. And it's really a way of using your creativity to kind of align with that energy and what you would like to manifest within that next monthly moon cycle, which is a little woo-woo for some people, but I am all about the woo.
Me too.
Because I know it's true, because I am literally an example of manifestation. I knew what I wanted to do. And I think a lot of it is putting the energy out there, putting it out to the universe, what you want. Speak it, write it, over and over and over again. Believe that it's already on its way to you. Act. Inspired action. What is the next step that you can take? People get lost on this. They think, well, if I can just speak it to the universe, then it should be coming to me. Well, this universe is getting a lot of signals on any given day at any given time. So when you back up what you've said with inspired action, that's not just, oh, I'm just going to do this. That inspired action that supports what you're trying to manifest. And I don't believe, this is what's worked for me, I don't believe it always has to be a huge step. It doesn't have to be a big step. Say somebody wants to change their careers, they're looking to move on to something different. It doesn't have to be that you quit your job tomorrow. That it doesn't have to be a huge step like that, but it could be, I get my resume in order. And it's like another whisper into the ear of the universe, like, I'm ready for this to happen. Waiting for this to happen. And then believing, and then behaving in a way.
Talk a little bit more about the believing, because I have a feeling that a lot of people get stuck around they have the desire, which I feel like, again, is creativity, intelligence talking to you. So you've acknowledged the desire, and then you're putting it out into the world and you're believing. But if you're somebody who's governed, like most of us are, by the rational mind, it's really tricky to get yourself to believe something, especially when you have all kinds of negative beliefs that are, the foundation of your personality, maybe what's possible, what isn't possible. How do you sort of suspend that so you can believe?
I would just say, like, I think there are plenty, and this happens in many, many instances, and not just manifestation. We can always find a reason why something isn't possible, but what if it is? Try and prove yourself wrong then.
Some rebel energy.
Yeah, some rebel energy. Well, I can manifest. Okay, all right, let's work the program, right?
Yeah.
Work the believe in program. I don't know how to teach that to somebody, really. The believing that comes from inside of you. I don't know that can be taught. But if you don't believe in you and you don't believe in your dreams, then why the hell is anybody else? Why is anybody else going to? And why should they if you don't believe in yourself and your dreams?
Yeah. That's
really
powerful.
So all of those things together, and then repeating and continuing that process. And some people do it visually with manifestation boards, and that's awesome. But I've this whole art career that I've been creating for myself and continue to create and grow has really been listening to the universe and feeling that pull and having a dream to be able to create art and paint and share radical joy through soul-fueled art with anybody and everybody I can reach. And so then I just reassess what's the little dream within that, right? What's the little dream? And then what's the little step that can get me closer to that dream? And then it continues to build, continues to build. Also, like letting go back to the letting go of it. Because if you are so intent on controlling the manifestation, that is like a bat signal to the universe that you don't really believe in it or trust in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then live in a place of joy, because then you are matching the vibration, the vibrational, everything in this universe is made up of energy. We all learned this in science. If we want to go to the rational mind, we all learned this in science class, that everything is a mass of vibrating atoms. Everything. Me, this jar of paint, right? This piece of paper, it's all vibrating atoms. And to match that manifestation energy, that high vibrational energy, you can't do it in a place that isn't joy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it in a place that isn't joy. I don't think. I haven't seen it work for me. Yeah, I haven't seen it work for me. But when I am focused on my dreams and what's the next step I can take, believing in them, and then the trust, the letting go, and then living in the place of joy. Even like financial, like I've done a lot of financial work, this getting rid of old mindsets and limiting beliefs, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, along the way, you're going to find mindset. We all have a lifetime of things that have been told to us, even like just as artists, starving artists. How many times have we had that shoved down our throats?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because I think that's like what the man, let's call him the man, society does to hold us down and keep us under their thumb. If they let you know that you could actually make something of your art and have a career of your art, well, then no holds barred, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go half Nelson on the man.
And then it will all fall apart.
And then the man is not going to be too happy about that. So they don't want you, right? Society doesn't want you to necessarily. And I think a lot of that is from the fear of the people who, have maybe led in society in different ways. I think it's fear, the power of the person, and not that they fear the fear in themselves.
Yeah, scarcity mentality.
Fear in themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Scarcity mentality. There is more that, talk about manifestation, and there's more than enough for all of us at this table. For all of us. My art might speak to somebody, and somebody else might be looking at this piece and going, oh, she's painting some crazy stuff. And what the heck is that? My kid could do that. How many times do we get that? Except what they don't know is, like, when somebody tells me that my kid could do that, or, again, can you see that one?
Mm-hmm.
That actually brings me joy, because that's what I am always trying to get to in my work, is that place of freedom that 99% of children have. I love kid art.
It's the best.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It's freedom.
Yeah.
It's before society has gotten to them saying you should think of it like this, right?
Yeah. I watched my 6-year-old daughter paint and
Yeah.
with her little apron at the easel, and her body language, like every stroke she takes is like that moment that I had with the red marker. And I just get the chills again telling you that.
Okay, so have you ever done a painting with her?
Yes, we have worked together on big ones like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Do it.
Yeah.
Harness some of that energy. The closer you are to that energy,
yeah,
the more likely you're going to absorb it.
Yeah,
it's just like, the people that you hang out with, right? What do they say? Like, highly successful people, like, look at the top 5 people that you spend most of your time with.
Yeah, they say that you become most like the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So spend more time painting with her.
Yeah, I got to do that. Maybe
I'll
take
freedom.
Take her out of school for another year.
I know, right? Your art partner.
My art, yeah, it's amazing to watch them.
Oh, I
Really
love my great nieces are some of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love their
Oh, I
stuff.
know. I agree.
I love their stuff.
You have a coaching program called Creative Shift. And I noticed in reading about you, I know you're doing a little bit
Yeah.
less of that work now to focus
Yeah.
on your love and of painting, but you are still doing
Yeah.
some coaching. Is that right still?
I enjoy being able to encourage, I'm a natural encourager, as I told you at the beginning, like I'm a natural cheerleader. I like to see other people experiencing creativity in the way that I have. I mean, obviously not in the way that I have, but in the way that I know that that is open to them if they are open to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think for women in particular? I'm interested in hearing from you what you have noticed is the biggest way that we hold ourselves back.
Well, number one, that perfectionism thing that I mentioned before.
Okay.
The lack of trust, looking to outside influences instead of inside to see, am I doing something right? What if you're not doing something right? You probably learn more from not doing something right than doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the growth is figuring out all that stuff for yourself. So also, so many women have lost themselves, quite frankly, especially moms, I think, because you've been pulled in. I don't want to say especially moms, because we all have responsibilities and obligations. So I don't want to make somebody who may be like me and has chosen not to have children, or somebody who couldn't have children, feel like the way they're moving through life is any less important. But
we
certainly
we tend to be the nurturers, and you've said that about yourself too. And I think
women are
that's
definitely nurturers.
that's what I think that's what you're pointing to, is that
I think
instinct
so
in
too.
us, yeah, gets
Mhm.
kind of like, yeah.
But if we let it, because there's something about it that makes us feel good, and that's great, we just need to temper it with that balancing act, I think, to be able to, it can be a good way to avoid the nitty gritty, because we're focused perhaps on somebody else's problems instead of our own.
Right.
My doggy barking.
No, doggy.
Right, and that's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I mean. We're perfectly perfect humans. We're humans.
I've really truly enjoyed and been moved by this conversation.
I'm so glad to
Yeah.
talk with you, and I know when we connected, we knew that we had some similar sensibilities or similar views or ways of looking at things. And again, like I say, inside and, inside the studio and outside the studio, because it is all connected.
Mm-hmm.
It is all connected. So I think.
I agree.
And like I said, I would say, what I paint might not be somebody's cup of tea. I'm okay with that. We have to, this is another thing with women. We want to be all things to everybody. Newsflash. Just stop. How about start by being what you need to be for you? And then everything else emanates from there.
Well, you inadvertently, I think, just answered my last question, which was around if you had a billboard that everybody in the world would see, and everybody who for whatever reason believe that they're just not good enough, not creative enough, or whatever, what would you put on it? And I think you already answered it, but if you want to answer it more succinctly or again, please.
If you don't believe in yourself, prove yourself wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just truly believe that it is what separates us as humans and makes us human. I mean, look back at history from before the cave drawings. People have been making art forever because there is this need within us to express ourselves. So I really do believe that everybody is creative, and they may not be creative in the same way. Painting may not be how they're creative, but they're creative in some way. And allow it to happen and nurture it. People want to know how to get better. This is a long billboard. This is a big billboard, Kate.
I'll pay for the extra ad space. It was worth it. It's all true. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep painting. You get better by painting. That the old saying about Carnegie Hall, practice. But yeah, I believe in the possibility. That's what I would say. Believe in the possibility, which includes yourself.
Those are all so true. And along those lines, I wanted to, when we were making arrangements to have you come on the show, we were chatting and you said something that I wanted to share with the listeners too. So I'll read it. I'll read it here.
What did I say?
You said, creativity is like a riptide that can pull you all the way in if you let it, though it's not nearly as dangerous as a real riptide. If you let it, it will bring us closer to our true selves, our gifts, and our life purpose. Art helps us to see and understand all of it.
And each other. And our place in the world. I think that's why people have been making it for so long. Yeah, it's not nearly as dangerous as a riptide.
I love that so much.
But even in a riptide, you can get back to shore by swimming parallel to the shore and swimming, hopefully, swimming parallel to the shore and swimming out of the riptide. Right?
Yeah. You're never
swimming out of that pool.
No matter what, you're never really lost. Yeah.
No, you're just finding your way. That's what we're doing all through life, is finding our way.
Yeah. I love, just in closing, I'll say this, there's a beautiful, I think it was Ram Dass who said, we're all just walking each other home.
That's so beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just love that.
And I feel like there's this, there's a lot more than that one simple, it evokes much more than that simple sentence. It evokes kindness and understanding and empathy and walking along this path that is life, and that none of us are perfect, but we're just walking each other home. Yeah. I love that. That's just really beautiful. And I think that's a really heartfelt sentiment to remember when you are creating, or when you're feeling that, oh God, how did, we get into the whole follower thing. Stop the comparison game. We're all just, on our own paths, and we're all just walking each other home. Let's just support each other.
Agree.
Sounds very kumbaya, but
hey, there's a reason kumbaya got so big.
Exactly.
So
I'm going to agree with you.
Where can people go to? Where's the best place for people to go to find out about your work? Where would you like them to go?
Instagram. I'm on Instagram just about every single darn day.
Okay.
I love it there. I love my Instagram community. They're incredibly supportive and varied. I just love the people that I've connected with on Instagram. So that's the beauty of social media. So Pamela J. Bates, at Pamela J. Bates on Instagram. I don't post on Facebook often, but it's at Pamela Bates Studio.
Okay. We'll put all that in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah. And PamelaBates.com is my website.
Okay.
And you can find different ways to reach me there.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute joy, and it was fun to speak with you and get to know you better and talk about all of this stuff that we talked about. Yeah, it was great.
I fully agree. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you for making the time.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back on the show at one point.
Absolute blast. And I can't wait to see what you do with a bold mark. When you have a painting that is making you feel frustrated and stuck, I want to know you've taken just like the biggest brush you have This isn't the biggest brush, but the biggest brush, and just go right across the whole darn thing.
The reason
Because
I
then
know,
there really is there's no going back. You got to go forward.
I know I have to do it because it feels like I feel so much resistance on my body that I know I have to do it. But I'll let you know. I'll let you know how that goes.
Just do it like ripping the Band-Aid off.
I will.
It won't be nearly as bad as you think it might lead. What if it leads to the most incredible painting you've ever done?
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And it might.
Yeah. Trust yourself.
I will. Okay.
Kate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Pamela reminds us that the magic lives in the letting go. Her terrifying advice to practice intentionally destroying the parts of the work we love the most rocked me to my core. And yet, I sense there's something important in this practice. Because it's true, when we allow anything to become too precious in life, we get jammed up. And when we're jammed up, we're not able to see the path that is laid out before us. I loved what she said about radical rest and how critical rest is in the creative process and how we ought to give rest the place it deserves in our lives. And if you take only one thing from this episode today, I hope it's the reminder that if you don't believe in yourself, you can always prove yourself wrong. After all, why should anybody believe in you if you don't? See a picture of my favorite Pamela Bates painting and find links to her websites in the show notes on kateshepardcreative.com/creativegenius. That's SHEPHERD. The word for today's show was intention. So I'll leave you with this thought. What would be available to you if you let your own inner intentions guide your creative explorations? I have a fun challenge for you. Forward this episode to the first friends that pop to mind right now. Don't overthink it. There's a reason you thought of them. You never know. You might change a life forever.